So if you are looking at the module where we're talking about future reason plans, we're looking at our research paper about what your career is going to be. Now, remembering that it doesn't necessarily need to be the career that if you won $1 million, that's what you would do with your free time. But it needs to be something that you can actually have research and tangible documentation for, okay? So if you wanted to say, like, research how much money you can make by being a clown, that's awesome. Might be hard. I don't know. I never looked it up, okay? But if you wanted to research, like, what does a doctor make, and you pick a specialty, you'll probably find it, okay? So the purposes of this is more finding a research paper, how do we write a research paper, and less about the topic per se. It's just way more fun than, like, the life cycle of a fleet, okay? So the whole point of the career aspect of it is just to make it more interesting for you. So let's take a look at our modules tab. Okay, so in here each day you'll find a couple of graphic organizers. So when we talk about which job, you should have gotten some information yesterday. You should have gotten feedback. They would have let you know, kind of like, hey, I see you're going down a side rail, let's point it back, or hey, awesome, you're doing a really great job. Whatever, you would have gotten something like that. Oh, seriously. But when you're looking at which job, and you're waiting on the lag, there we go. We talked about the deadline that your first draft is due what day, guys? The 1st. February 1st is a big day in here, okay? And February 5th is when our final draft will be due. Those days between the 1st and the 5th will be when we work on our pizza book project and when we work on editing our work. Yes, ma'am?
TJ Green.
Sure. All right, so on this research organizer, you're trying to explain to me what are you going to do and why? Like, why would you choose that? Why would you be a teacher and choose to live in Oklahoma? Right? Okay. So most of you did fabulous on this, but some of you are on the salary range. I have one that says like 6, 5, and 4. Like, Betty, are you going to make $6 a year? Because when we're talking about salary, we're talking about how much do you make a year, okay? So $38,000 for a teacher a year doesn't sound that bad, right? Mm-hmm. But if you break it down to, I spread that out over 12 months, so I still get a paycheck in the summer, and taxes and all the other things, looking like $2,400 a month. Okay, so looking at that, you need to have an idea. Salary range refers to, like, what would you make in a year if you were just starting out, a few years down the road, and so on. And when you're looking at advancement opportunities, your career may not have any, okay? Because, like, if you're just a teacher, you kind of just stay just a teacher. If you go back and get your master's degree, you can move on to administration, things like that, okay? So if yours to move up to a senior level would require an additional degree, you might just make a note like, hey, I can move up, but whatever, okay? So let's take a look at the next graphic organizer in our project. Yeah,
So the second one for yesterday, we do that one too?
Yes, the second one for yesterday, responsibilities, okay? We didn't really get a chance to dive into this deeply, so let's take a look. Okay, so what are some of the day-to-day responsibilities and tasks of this job? Now, this is a part where I'm absolutely okay with you copying and pasting from a website. Why do you think that might be? Oh?
Because you're taking information and crediting it.
You're going to credit it, but even if you paraphrase it when you use it in your paper, having that exact information makes it so much easier to record and document when you're doing your research, okay? So I might go say, Google, what are some extra responsibilities that I would have as a teacher? Google, recess duty. It sucks, okay? So maybe that might be there, and that might be my first Google source. Is Google my actual source? No, right? What's my actual source? The website you got it from, okay? You wouldn't say that I use Mom's soap because my mom gets me the soap out of the cabinet. right? You would say like, our family uses Zest soap. We are zestfully clean. My mom purchased it from the store and she gave me a bar. Okay, right? So just because you got it from Google doesn't mean that's where the actual item came from. You got it from Google, but it might have come from WebMD or Britannica or something like that. Okay, those are your actual sources. Wikipedia is okay if you determine that it's actually a good source. Is Wikipedia, that particular wiki page, written by the Unabomber on a mountain in Colorado, or does he have actual sources to back up his information? Now, those were the two that we looked at yesterday. Did anybody have any questions on those from yesterday? Feeling good in the neighborhood? All right, let's talk about today's. First of all, the What's Up Wednesday is available to you. We get to that right fast. On this last slide down here in the green, there's an example of what you need to do to earn the 5 points. Either you earn the full 5 or you get no 5s. Now let's talk about job locations. Something else to think about is, where will you work? Like, at the risk of sounding like a TV character, when I was your age, I wanted to write for the Associated Press. And that would mean I would be based in London or New York. But then that stuck for a while. Then I figured out, oh, I might want to be near my family if there's an emergency, when my dad had his first heart attack. And I was like, no, I don't want to be that far, right? And so I decided maybe I needed to look closer at where I would work. You might be like of the opinion that you can't wait to get out of jail and work in New York like I was. Or you might be of the opinion that I can't wait to raise my kids here like my husband was, okay? Whatever your opinion is, we need to see if the job you've chosen can help you reach those goals. So, where are the majority of those jobs located? How much does it cost to live in that area? That's important. Can you afford to live there? Like, remember we talked about how teachers in Hawaii, that sounds like a really sweet job. You get summers off and you work in Hawaii. Sweet, right? But they don't make crap. And they like live in tiny little apartments because they can't afford to pay for their lives, right? The living cost is expensive there. But then there are some benefits like summers off, or, maybe in your job, I don't know. There's different benefits to every job, right? And there are different hazards to every job. Not every job requires you to know what to do in an active shooter drill, right? But I think it's fair to say that's probably something I would need to know for work, right? Okay. So you're looking at those. What are some of the hazards, benefits, costs, and where can I live? Those are some of the things you're looking into today. Again, it's absolutely okay to copy and paste information from a source here. Just make sure you include the source information there so you can cite it when you're ready to write.
What if you don't have a source?
You've got to find a source to back your stuff up. Or the biggest rule in journalism is, when in doubt, leave it out. So if you're getting to it and you're looking at like, I don't know what a hazard might be associated with this career, it's pretty safe. Like, I'm going to be an insurance salesman. Okay, well that's a pretty safe job. I mean, your biggest hazard is going to be not meeting your sales quota for the month, and you're going to be broke that month, and you got to eat ramen instead of steak, okay? But, so maybe you don't have one that fits in that category. Leave it out when you're writing your paper, okay? So when in doubt, leave it out. But if you can find it and back it up, then you want to include it. Okay, so we're talking about our job locations today, and we're also going to talk about the top 3 areas. Maybe your job is going to limit you to one specific area, like ice road trucker. Okay, that's cool, but you're definitely going to be limited to one area for your work. That doesn't mean you have to live there. You guys ever watch that show, Gold Rush? Where those guys like try to go find gold in Alaska or whatever. They don't live there. They live in the contiguous 49 states, and then they go up there. 48, geez Louise. They live in the continental U.S., and then they go up there when it's time to farm or dig for gold, when the lion thaws and so on. So maybe you only want to be a nature photographer some of the time, and you want to live some of the time here. That's cool. But thinking about location, on this one, I want you to choose 3 completely different areas, okay? It's not okay for this part to look at Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and Weatherford, okay? Those are different places where you could definitely do that job, and you could probably make more as a nurse in Tulsa than you could in Weatherford, right? I would think. I don't know. That's a rabbit hole. But I want you to look at like completely different areas, okay? Try to find some different places. Like you guys talked about, what if we lived in Colorado together? What if we lived here together? What if we tossed it all and moved to Fenway? We bought the ballpark and we live in the ballpark. Be nice, right? If you won that $700 billion lottery thing the other day, you probably could. But whatever it is, I want you to pick some random places or places that you've always wanted to go. Maybe you really loved going on vacation to Destin, Florida. Choose that as one of your places. Maybe you might want to stay here or choose here. If you're not able to find median salary, rent, and so on for a place, then look for the nearest metropolis. Okay, so like Dale is not going to have information listed. Shawnee might on Google. But if you're struggling to find that, you might go to Oklahoma City or something like that. Okay? Like if you want to live in Branson and you're not sure what the cost of living is and you're having a hard time finding that, you might look at Tulsa or St. Louis. Okay? All right, so those are the 2 that we're going to work on today, but we're going to keep going on these graphic organizers because some of you are working ahead, which is cool. I just want to get to it so we can talk about what those look like. So tomorrow we're going to take a look at your education. Now, some of your jobs are going to require you to have an actual degree. Some of your jobs are going to have you have an actual license, and something in the middle. You never know what you're going to need, right? So for anything, you're going to need some kind of training, okay? They're not going to pay you to be an 8th grader, right? So we're going to need some kind of education or training. So let's look at 4 schools or training sources. Like if you want to be an auto body repair mechanic, you can do that at Gordon Cooper. You can also go to OSU Okmulgee and get an associate's degree. Either one of those would be a good option, right? So looking at different areas for that. Maybe you want to be an ice road trucker and you want to start out by attending school at Oklahoma's TTI, the Trucker Training Institute. Creative name, right? Or maybe you want to go to Alaska so you can be trained how to specifically drive on the ice. Maybe you need both. Okay, so you're going to look at 4 different areas where you would get that. Now is it making more sense as to why I want you to choose something that's researchable so we can find data? Okay. So that's where we're going to compare how much is tuition for the full thing. So like for the full enchilada of a bachelor's degree, how much is it? How much does it cost me to be a doctor? Okay, so you're going to compare some colleges. I don't expect them to be ones you would pick. I don't expect you to go there. I'm not going to hold you to it. But I want you to start thinking about that. And then finally, we'll talk about our goal setting. Now, some of you had some big goals, and that's great, by the way. I'm not knocking the big goals. But we might have to take some steps to get to those big goals, okay? So, like, my steps to writing for the AP, right, would have been a long path. So what can I do now in middle school to achieve that goal? Well, first of all, I'm going to have to pass this project and probably the 8th grade, right? What can I do to make sure I accomplish my goals? Can I tell people my goals? What happens if I tell people my goals? Are you going to hold me to it? Are you going to ask me about it? What about if you tell your grandma, I want to write a book? Listen, I can guarantee you, okay, I got 3 grandmas and they all wanted to know when my book was going to be done, okay? Even my grandma who's passed, I'm pretty sure she's going to haunt me if I don't finish it, okay? So you can tell other people, this is my goal. How can you help me? Will you help me study, right? 5 things you need to do in high school to achieve my goal. I'm probably going to need to take the ACT, right? So I can go to college or so I can get placement. If I want to join the military, I'm going to need to take the ASVAB in high school. Okay? That's like the ACT for for military. What 5 things do I need to do after high school? Not get arrested for meth, right? Okay, so you can put a silly goal, but only one silly goal, okay? And then what do you need to do when you have your first job in your career? Well, if my first job in my career, I am teaching here at school and I sell meth out of my classroom, am I going to be able to move up in my rank?
Yeah.
No. Right? Okay, so I need to make smart choices in my first job in my career, but I also need to make sure that those smart choices are getting me where I want to go. And then what is your ultimate career goal? Like, if I could choose, I would be the world's most renowned whatever, right? What award would you win? I was shooting for a Pulitzer. What would you win? What would be your big dream? I'll know that I am the best in my field when I save a baby. I'll know that I'm the best in my field when I sell a painting for $5,000. Stop a house fire. What's going to be your biggest goal? Think big, okay? So that's our graphic organizers. That's what we're working on today through the end of class on Thursday. As you're submitting these each day, check your feedback each day, okay? Go in, look at it. It should tell you, like, doesn't it tell you, like, your teachers are giving you a grade on Canvas or whatever? Okay? Check that feedback.
You also see comments. So it tells you when you get a comment.
Okay, and check those comments because that's where I'm kind of trying to help you as we go. So nobody's getting down to, I'm ready to write my research paper, but my teacher says I have to start over. Okay, we don't want to get to that point. That sucks, okay? If you have questions, email me. If you're not sure about something, ask me, and always check your feedback.